So today on the See Life Different podcast, I have the honor of interviewing Taylor Thomas. She is a disability advocate, self-love and self-care enthusiast based in Dallas, Texas. She is also a marketing specialist. So she helps brands to strategically capture stories with curated content that attract, connect, and grow their brands. So she works as a marketing professional during the day and looks forward to the day that she can go full-time in her photography and graphic business. She's also been hard of hearing since birth and has a slight speech impairment. And today we're going to talk about that. We actually met virtually at a conference called Impact Weekend, and we have a lot in common. Not only are we both hearing impaired, not only are we both photographers, but we both just love God. So we're going to talk about that today. Welcome to the podcast, Taylor.
Hey, so glad to be here. And it's so fun to have the opportunity to meet you at the Impact Weekend. So that's
I know it's been amazing. It was so amazing of so many amazing, beautiful women that we met.
absolutely, absolutely. It was very overwhelming for sure. And the fact that they made it both in person and virtual it was nice. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad that I could attend, and it's actually going to be. It was my first actual time attending, but it's not going to be my last.
Amen. Same here. It was definitely my first time attending. I was glad I was able to do it virtually my first time, but I got my ticket for next year, so I'll be going in live. I wanted to do VIP, but not. I will have to just take the regular ticket for now. So
I
it's fine.
know. Yeah, let's just wait and see what happens
Right.
later on because always it's always something will show up because just to keep on believing because I know like for last this past summit there's an amazing Facebook group with everyone that we can connect before, and so one of them was like she well, what happened was before the pandemic, everything was in person anyway. And so toward the end of 2020, she opened it up for virtual. And so if someone got a virtual ticket at the last minute when they really, really wanted VIP in person.
Mhm.
And nothing but God, but she made it in that room. So you
Wow.
never know. You never
Yeah.
know.
Finger crossed.
Yes. So I guess we'll talk about that. Like talk more about like what you do. Let's learn more about that and what you do. Because technically you've been a creative and a marketer almost all of your life. So talk about that.
Basically. Yeah. So right now I am a marketing strategist for a nonprofit, a global nonprofit here in Dallas. And I just scaling it back, I basically went to college and got my bachelor's in marketing and then a minor degree in visual arts. So I was always heavily into the arts and heavily, um, well, it was funny because I actually wanted to go to college for graphic design, but the school I got accepted in was a private school, and my parents, they didn't want to pay private school money. So I had to find a public school, and unfortunately, I was just only able to go in at first as an actuarial science because I do love math, but things got really tricky, and I decided to switch over to marketing, and I'm glad I did. But I am also very heavily into arts because ever since I was little, I danced for a very long time, and then I'm also an artist. I love to draw, do graphic design. And then my dad, he's actually was a photographer, and he gifted me my first camera. And ever since then, I still love photography. So um, because of the fact that I am hard of hearing and do have bilateral hearing loss ever since I was little and I wasn't very verbal, I found way to express with my body and my skill set. So with dancing, you don't necessarily need to speak, thank goodness. So you just watch the move and you just mimic it and just, just have fun expressing your body that way. And then with art, you just use your hands and your mind and bring everything into fruition. So I just use my abilities and to, in the best way of expressing me and who I am, and found that that's just how I wanted to live creatively. So marketing was a great way to be creative, and I decided to just try to keep the creativeness going throughout, wherever I go, business wise or personally. That's just how I express myself ultimately.
I love that though. I also love that you mentioned how photography does not necessarily require too much talking. So for me, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I too have bilateral hearing loss, and I too was gifted a camera at the age of 5. My mom was kind of the photographer
Mm-hmm.
because there's a whole backstory for those who are new to listening to this or watching it. I am a cancer survivor, and it was a photograph that my mother took of me that detected my cancer. And
Wow.
so my mom was the photographer, and so when she gave me a camera at the age of 5, um, like that's it. That was my voice. I was a pretty quiet and shy girl for the reasons of I may not hear you, I may not understand you, I may get more tired trying to listen to you. So yeah, photography with that and marketing became that way to kind of help others because we're on the computers all the time. We learned about what Facebook and MySpace and all these other pages before everybody else. So
Mhm.
that's definitely super important. Now here we are, almost essential workers
Right.
now. So yeah, how about that? So tell me more about what life was like growing up with the hearing impairment.
Um, at first it was very frustrating. It was confusing because not realizing that I am different, but because it wasn't until I was 5 when no, it was yeah, 4 or 5 when my parents realized that, okay, maybe she needs to go in for a hearing doctor because one, I wasn't when it comes to my speech, I wasn't at the speaking level for my age, and then also they noticed that I don't respond when they reach out to me as any normal kid would. So they took me to a hearing doctor, and then that's how they found out that I do have pretty severe hearing loss, so I needed hearing aids. And back then with hearing aids, they were super big and bulky, so it was really hard to ignore, and I, it was just very awkward. And plus, me, I have a birthmark on the left side of my face and have a birthmark in my left eye. So, being the girl with the blue greenish birthmark and then have these big old hearing aids, I was definitely pointed out a lot as a kid, and then not really being able to express myself. Frustrating and confusing. But thankfully, the school district that I was at, they did offer speech therapy. And because my mom, being the researcher, the hardcore, just parent, any parent would, as far as making sure that their child gets the best of anything so that they can excel, she found a school district that help kids of any disability, and they have like a extra schooling along with the actual schooling the kids are. So I get pulled out of class, relearning everything that we learn in class, making sure that I understand what's going on, and they will take their time with me, so I can learn. And the cool part was I did to go on a cool field trip with other deaf and hard of hearing kids, so that I didn't really feel necessarily completely excluded. So it was pretty interesting to really get to meet other kids that are kind of like me, have similar disabilities, but then being put back into the real world and trying to interact with them. So it took a lot of adjusting, a lot of meeting different people, and a lot of understanding how to build relationship with everybody growing up. It's still a discovery now, but it's been an interesting journey to say the least. That's for sure.
Absolutely, especially the part about building relationships. And it's so interesting because my listeners and my watchers may like see this confidence, this exuberance, this happy-go-lucky girl, but it took 30 years to build that because one, like you said, we have to overcome the bullying, we have to overcome the insecurity, we have to overcome feeling like we're not good enough. And yeah, of course, those little field trips were amazing.
Yes.
The time, like I really had a great speech therapist growing up. And I think for me, my speech therapist was because of the um kind of like the unevenness of the connection between the ears and the brain. I think I'm making sense, if I'm making sense to
No,
those.
100%.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why we have speech therapy, because if we can, when we can hear you, it doesn't relay immediately, but then sometimes it doesn't relay to our mouths immediately. So that's why we
Mhm.
have speech therapy. But if it wasn't for speech therapy, I would not have been a almost a public speaker in high school, and I would not have definitely been comfortable enough with. I too, my first out of country trip was to Costa Rica with a group of students who were deaf, hard of hearing, or wanted to learn sign language.
Oh, cool.
So that was an amazing experience. So what would you say though? I guess while we're talking about hearing impairment, speech impairments, and speech therapy, what would you say to those who um, are not sure if their child or family member need to get tested, and not sure if their child or family member needs speech therapy?
I would say, you know, just like with any other doctor appointment, when you got to see your primary care physician and you got to see, as we get older, our, women exam that we do that, I just so love getting violated every year for that particular reason. But I feel that it's also important to take advantage of going to see an audiologist or just taking some sort of hearing test, because something as simple as doing a hearing test and recognizing that they may not raise their hand for certain sound or may not be able to repeat back, what you're saying, or however the hearing test may go for certain people, you could detect something almost immediately and be able to figure out what the issues are. It could be something as simple as having one too many whacks in your ear. You can wash it out and then you're fine. But then it could be something more severe. But the beautiful thing about technology, there are several ways of, improving your hearing with hearing aids. There's tiny in the ear ones I used to have, and then I went back to the one that's behind the ears because of even more technology of what they have. So I just say just take advantage of all the doctor's appointment you can. There are even free facilities that you can go to in your state just to see where you stand, whether you're a child or an adult, and just take every precautionary measures you need to take so that you can perform and be at your best and not ever have to feel like something is wrong with you when it's not anything necessarily wrong with you. It just you just could possibly need a solution to something that you just aren't aware of what's going on.
Just like you also said, we also agreed on the phrase we have different abilities, not disabilities.
Yes, different ability. That's a blessing. And God made it this way as far as for each of us to have different abilities for a reason. So why not be accepting of that and capitalize on it?
Absolutely. Now, speaking of different abilities, how do you use your different abilities to help other grands to grow?
Well, the funny thing is, even though I am hard of hearing, I am probably the best listener you can ever come across because I have to utilize every other senses to pay attention to you. So I have to read your lips. I mean, I don't necessarily have to smell you or anything like that, but use any and other senses to make sure that I'm giving you all of my attention, because I really hate when I'm not giving you everything. So because I don't like missing what people are saying and I have to say, I'm sorry, can you say that again? I just try to give you literally all of my attention so I can capture what you're saying. And the funny thing is, because I do that, people tend to get naturally vulnerable with me and tend to overshare, which is not a problem. But I just find that very unique that people just can feel like they can come to me for anything. And for that, that's where I get the special moments of hearing these beautiful stories of my friends or whomever that they speak with, who I speak with, and they share like pieces of them that for whatever reason they may be ashamed of, or for whatever reason may not think that is worthy, or they just think it's stupid. But I'm like, no, no, this is amazing. Why don't you use this for, whatever you're wherever you're applying for your business or for whatever the case may be, and then it gets them to think. Because I tend to take what they share with me and flip it back so that they can tend to add value into the world with the story that I'm being moved by and being compelled by. So, because of the fact that people tend to become vulnerable with me, and I just feel like I can help people who feel unseen or don't feel um, like
Heard.
yeah, don't feel heard, and just being able to take my different abilities and think, okay, well, for instance, with my photography business, I absolutely love to take the fact, my photography and capture them in their action and capture them when they're within their light and capture them as who they are. I'll just talk with them, just tell me about da 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 da. And you're like, well, haha, just they'll laugh. And then when I capture that moment and I show it to them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is me. How were you able to capture that? Or this is exactly what I was thinking. How were you able to do that? It's just because you were just being yourself. And it's amazing how much more relatable you are when you are completely yourself. And that's just a simple example of how I use my different abilities just to help others with their brand, essentially.
And I love the fact that you mentioned that despite we are hard of hearing, we are better listeners.
Mhm.
That's absolutely true. And that's actually, for me, I think I also will add in that one of my superpowers is intuition. Like it's not a five, senses, but
Mhm.
it's a underlying sense that's actually pretty heightened as well. So even though no, we don't smell, but I feel you. I can definitely feel you.
Right. That and I agree because I think that was a much better way of saying it because I do have a sense of, like you say, intuition or feeling your vibe. Like I can feel your energy, which is very weird because you can just come in my room, come in my area, and then you can smile in my face, but something feels off. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, you know what I mean? And then they just start breaking down and telling me everything. I just know immediately. So you're right. It's definitely intuition for sure.
I love that. Now, let's talk about self-care. What do you do for self-care? Because of course, we do all this listening all day long, all this talking all day long. Not many people understand just how tiring it is because once again, we're using four of our senses because one of them we don't have as strong as the other. And for me, I'm gonna throw in that I get more tired easily because limited vision and limited hearing. So what about you? What do you do for self-care on the days that you are just tired?
Shoot, that I'm still trying to build self-care, to be honest. It's the struggle, but I do find that whenever I get back to the root of what I love, which are basically dance, painting, drawing, writing, just brain dumping, releasing and moving my body, and just allowing me to remind myself of what I do, why I love what I do, and where it all came from, where it all stemmed from when I was a child. I feel like that helped with me mentally, and then also physically because we got to keep moving, and then being in quarantine, it's hard. I just like to sit on my butt for 8 hours and then want to go back to my bed and just chill and call it a night when we can't keep doing that. That's how we gain all these lovely weight. So, but for the most part, I feel like that is what I do. Plus, I've definitely gotten more in touch with devotionals. Right now, I'm reading the 100 Days of Believing Bigger by Marshawn Evans. I am not the greatest at praying every single day, and I'm not a biblical scholar to where I can just recite scriptures and just be able to pray that perfect prayer. So having this 100-day devotional helped me understand certain parts of the Bible, really understand how to pray certain type of prayer, and really just getting used to knowing what to pray for because I can just be, Lord, please help me with this. and and just keep it very general. And it's like, Taylor, you could do a lot better if you ask or pray for the right thing. So praying devotional actually helped me tremendously. I'm not perfect with it, but I have been pretty consistent, and I've noticed a huge change with my mindset, with my spirit, and just feeling more fulfilled. And I absolutely love that. For some reason, it even helped me sleep easier because I would do it right before I go to sleep. I'm going to do it because where for Lent, that is coming up. My dad is actually a Catholic, so I also like to partake in what his traditions are too. And for Lent that's coming up, I'm actually doing another devotional, and it's like 50 morning devotionals. So I'll do a morning devotional and then the evening devotional, just so I can really just get in the habit of doing it on the regular. So that's kind of what I'm doing so far. I know I can do a lot better, but that's just where I'm at right now.
I love it, and it's definitely a great start in the right direction. I definitely second that. Now, for me, there's this quote that I've been seeing, and I think that's also the good thing about honing down and focusing on just you and God, because I will start to see relatable quotes on Instagram. Like most people get distractions on Instagram, I'm starting to get those reminders on Instagram. So there was one quote that showed up that said that this phase of your life requires isolation. This phase of your life requires you to literally only you and God know what that vision is, and that's the only way to really execute it. And so that's actually what it's been for me. So of course, for me growing up, it was literally just my mom, and my dad that grew up in the faith of Islam as Muslim. And so it's everybody else in my family is every other religion. So of course I battle with that. Like, okay, how do I really still be myself and still say, okay, I'm going to pray my way, And so I guess as a result of still battling that, I personally loved the affirmation. I'm kind of glad you mentioned Marshawn, because going back to Impact Weekend a little bit, since that was our coach's coach, um, um, at Impact Weekend, the first day was all about affirmation, guided meditation and affirmation. And in our little virtual goodie box, we got 30 days of affirmations. So I love those. I've been using those. Those have been helping me a lot. But I think what's important about affirmations is kind of similar to what you said, of like be more specific about what you're praying for. So you can't say, I'm gonna try to do this, I hope to do this, I want to do this. It's more like it's already happening. This vision came to you because it's going to happen already. So
I am this.
mhm.
Just speaking as if it's already existed. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Okay, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. Now, if there's anything that no one else got from this conversation, what is one thing you want our listeners, our ladies, to take away from?
As far as what they may not know about just me in general, or just
As far as what they don't know about what they don't know.
okay, got you. Well, at the end of the day, and I think where I even struggled with this in the beginning. If you don't, you won't know until you start. So I feel at the end of the day, if you have this vision that has been put into your heart by God, or you just felt compelled for some idea that you just have, and you don't know where to start, don't know what to do, the beautiful thing is you're not meant to do this alone. There are several other people who have skills and expertise in other areas that you may not know how to run a business or whatever the case may be. It's a matter of connection. Connect with the right people to help propel you to where you're meant to be. Ask the right questions, even the wrong question too, because then that can help you get to the right questions. And just just do it. Because when you just basically won't know until you start. And just keep trying, keep failing, keep going. And I found that ever since the pandemic, that's what helped propelled me to keep starting my photography business for real. But 2019 I started it. 2020 I basically am growing it and learning and connecting with my mentor, connecting with like-minded people from Impact Weekend. And I'm finding that that's basically what I need to continue to grow. So until you start, you won't know. And that's basically how I want to leave it.
I love it. And I kind of want to add in to keep the momentum going, right?
Yeah,
Like
keep it.
once you start, once you at least started executing that vision, keep it going because it gotta be completed.
Yes, right. It has to be completed and involved as well, because it's not going to ever be done. It's always going to be evolving, ever evolving. So don't think just because you started at one point, it's going to stay at that point. It's going to evolve into something bigger and more amazing. That's for sure.
And speaking of evolving, I love and I'm so excited to be able to almost have a first seat, up close personal VIP seat and you evolving. So I'm so excited for you. So where can people witness your evolution? Like where can people find you? Where can people work with you? And do you have a little offer for our listeners?
Yes. So, of course, if you want to find me on social media, you can I have 2 social media pages. Definitely my business is Taylor A. Thomas Studio, and or Love Always Taylor _. So those are on social media. You can always check out my website at taylorathomas.com. And if you join my email list, you will get a lovely freebie, if you will, just to learn how to successfully have a successful photo shoot, a brand photo shoot. So just if you're ever worried about how to go about planning or even what to do when it comes to having a brand photo shoot, check out that freebie. It will literally lay out how to go about and what to do and what you need for a successful brand photo shoot, and would love to connect with you there, or just check me out and reach out to me on social media, and then we'll definitely take it from there.
Love it, love it. So I know that was your first time really be like, okay, let's do it. Let's step outside of our comfort zone.
Listen, I'm here. Just find me. I'm there.
Love it, love it, love it. So and we'll reiterate that you're located in Dallas, Texas, surrounded by lots of other creatives. So any of my listeners who are in the Dallas, Texas, definitely check out Taylor. But of course, she's also virtual as well. And we will definitely include all of these links in our show notes. So be sure to check it out on seelifedifferent.com. And thank you, Taylor, for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you, Zakia. It was wonderful being here, and I really appreciate you having me. It's wonderful.